we started to write this book called Arabian Crypto.
Uh-huh.
So Arabian Crypto will be a very similar context. It will be written here in Dubai and covering essentially the ecosystem of entrepreneurs in crypto in Dubai. So I hope to deliver to the readers a good mix of inspiration, a good mix of also local culture. So we're going to spend time in different parts of the UAE to make the people understand how the commerce has been evolving over centuries here and how eventually now crypto is part of many people's agenda, and highlighting some of the local talents as well as the expat talents which are operating and growing the ecosystem here. We have already a list of very interesting people, and we look forward to have conversations with them. The book should be out by the end of 2025.
This episode of Encrypted is sponsored by CoinRoutes. CoinRoutes is a leading institutional crypto trading platform that has rapidly established itself as a market leader in systematic trading solutions, offering a powerful algorithmic order execution management system that empowers the world's largest crypto trading firms. Welcome to the Encrypted Podcast, your gateway to the future of technology and innovation, right here in the heart of Dubai's dynamic tech universe. I'm your host, Maria Vovchok, and together with Dubai Blockchain Center, we are embarking on a journey that unravels the minds of tech visionaries through the digital frontiers that are shaping our world. Hello and welcome everyone to the Encrypted Podcast. I'm your host, Maria Vovchok, and today we're really happy to have here Charles Dorsey, the CEO of dYdX Foundation, leading the world's premier decentralized finance protocol for perpetual futures. The dYdX chain is fully decentralized, community-governed ecosystem. Charles actually brings a wealth of experience from blockchain and fintech spaces in the past. Before joining dYdX, he served as a global head of business development at ConsenSys, where he led key initiatives at one of the top blockchain companies worldwide. He also held a pivotal role as a head of fintech at the Hong Kong government, InvestHK, where he supported fintech innovations and regulatory engagement. As an early adopter in crypto since 2011, Charles's career spans entrepreneurial ventures, executive roles in fintech. His book, BlockKong, explores the stories of blockchain leaders driving Hong Kong crypto ecosystem. Charles' new book is called Arabian Crypto, which we will definitely also talk about it. Charles, welcome to Encrypted.
Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here.
Thank you. Charles, the first question I always ask our guests, because you have like such an amazing background, but also, is there something else that our audience should know about you that maybe I haven't mentioned yet?
I love chocolate. I love Dubai chocolate.
Amazing.
And I love cycling. And when I'm not working or with my family, I eat chocolate or I go cycling.
So as I mentioned earlier, you were and you are a leader in crypto in Asia. Like for many years, you've been recognized as a top influencer. What made you move from Asia to Dubai?
I spent 20 years more or less in Asia. I spent a lot of time in Hong Kong, 18 years in Hong Kong. And at some point, it was a little bit feeling maybe too comfortable. And I felt it was a part of the world which was a little bit too far on the map and always kind of trying to catch up with European time zones and US time zones. And we wanted together with my family a little bit of fresh air and fresh energy. So we explored the world a little bit and eventually my wife and I decided that Dubai was the right place. It was it came to us as a very energetic city. What people don't really realize unless you live here is that 90% of people living in Dubai are actually immigrants. So in a sense, it's a little bit like the USA of the Middle East. Everyone comes with a dream, everyone comes with ambitions, and everyone is working on those ambitions. So it creates really good energy. I really like this, and that's something we found as well in Hong Kong. You can find this energy in a few places in the world, but Dubai is definitely one of them. And there is also in crypto, which is my focus, there is a lot of action here. A lot of our peers from the industry of crypto are here. The regulators, the government are engaged with the industry. They communicate, they build, they bring clarity in terms of regulations. So that's a lot of things which make it a very exciting place. So we moved recently, but we are very happy with our move and definitely staying for many more years.
Oh, interesting. Share with us the latest updates that dYdX has that you kind of brought them as well to UAE.
So dYdX exists since 2018 and has been focusing on the crypto derivative market. For those who are not very familiar with crypto trading, there is two types of crypto tradings. In the market, you can either trade spots, so you buy or sell a Bitcoin, some ETH, some Solanas, and you essentially acquire or sell the physical coin via your crypto wallet. But there is a bigger market than the spot trading market. It's the crypto derivative market. We find exactly the same pattern in equity, where the equity market is large, but the equity derivative market is almost 10 times bigger. So dYdX focus on crypto derivatives and has been very opinionated in building decentralized infrastructure and following and leveraging all the technology on the way. So dYdX exists since 2018. Started on the Ethereum layer 1, then was one of the early adopters of layer 2s with Starkware. And essentially, the community decided via governance to keep evolving the protocol itself and launching the dYdX chain. So the dYdX chain has been launched last year, about 12 months or so ago. And it recorded already $270 billion US dollar of trading volume. Focusing only on certain type of derivative, we call them the perpetuals contract, which are futures contract, which enable the users to express their opinion on the market. With a perpetual contract, you can express your opinion saying, I am long Bitcoin with some leverage, I am short Ethereum or whatever other market you want to trade. More than 180 markets are available on dYdX. And essentially, the users of the dYdX protocol can launch market instantly following one of our last features, the dYdX Unlimited version.
Unlimited version. Okay, so what does it in this case provide?
So in this case, it provides the opportunity for users to essentially launch market as soon as they are available. So as soon as a coin is launched, should it be a meme coin or maybe a project launch its coin, essentially the users of dYdX will be able to, via a simple user interface, in a few hours after this coin comes to existence, they will be able to launch the market and trade themselves. So think a little bit of the formula which has been developed by Uniswap. On Uniswap, you can launch a market by yourself. You bring your coin, you bring some liquidity, and the market is launched. Yeah. Exactly the same principle at dYdX, but only for perps. And perps is, as I said, way bigger than the spot market.
What is right now the volume of derivatives market, crypto derivatives?
So if we look at the overall industry, we're talking about trillions of trading volumes in derivative. What is interesting is to see where this volume is sitting. Yeah. So about 90% of the crypto derivatives are traded today on centralized exchanges. Think of Coinbase, Binance, and so on. And only 10%, 5 to 10%, is traded today on-chain via decentralized exchanges. So there is still a big opportunity for essentially the market to rebalance and come and expand on-chain.
What do you think, what should be done for decentralized exchanges to be the leader in this case? Because as you mentioned, centralized exchanges right now are winning. What decentralized exchanges should do so they should be on top of this?
The first thing decentralized exchanges should be doing is thinking how they can keep innovate in a way that they create an unfair advantage for themselves. How can you create DeFi exclusive features? How can you create an experience which is exclusively available on DeFi decentralized exchanges and not replicatable by centralized exchanges? So essentially carving yourself a competitive advantage by not replicating what is available on centralized venues, but creating something of your own. So that's one thing. One example is with dYdX, for example, this instant market launch feature where you can launch your market immediately. You cannot do that on Binance. You have to wait for Binance to essentially list a market before being able to trade it. Another one which dYdX has been experimenting successfully is the launch of the mega vaults. So when you launch so many different markets, you need to bring liquidity to those markets. Liquidity does not happen by magic, right?
Yeah.
So dYdX community has been essentially supporting and launching an automatic market maker, a mega vault, which provide liquidity to the long tail assets, ensuring that the experience for the users is adequate whenever they want to trade. And I think the last thing decentralized exchanges should be thinking deeply, and this is what a topic we are very active on, is thinking about distribution. Many people have a very binary view of the market: centralized exchanges users, decentralized type of infrastructure users. But actually, I think the next 100 millions of DeFi users are just a few clicks away. We just have, as a DeFi protocol, being able to onboard these crypto traders which are already operating on centralized venues. So I think we see right now a lot of work being done by the centralized protocol to essentially work much more actively and thinking more deeply about their distribution. I see many projects trying to build their own audience, bringing people to their own .com or their own app. It's very hard. It costs a lot of money. The velocity of users, they can change protocol very easily. So I think it's not a very effective way. The most effective way is to look at how finance, in traditional finance, how financial products have been distributed. And even though we want to renovate this traditional finance with decentralized finance, I think there is some concept and framework which we should pay attention. If you buy a BlackRock fund, or if you buy an ETF from Vanguard, you will never go directly to BlackRock and Vanguard. Usually they have distributors. It can be your bank, it can be a stockbroker. And we haven't seen yet optimized distribution in crypto, in my opinion. And what we see is many centralized exchanges are essentially in a global race to acquire licenses in different jurisdictions. Many of those licenses are only for spot trading. They cannot do lending anymore. They cannot do futures anymore. So what it means is for many users, they are, for example, sitting in a country, let's say a European country, and then, Binance or Coinbase get a license. But suddenly many of the services are closed down because the license comes for one type of activity only. So we see all these centralized exchanges developing very actively their non-custodial wallets. Think of the Web3 wallet from OKX, the Web3 wallet from Coinbase, and so on. And I think there is an opportunity for many people in DeFi and DeFi projects to essentially come closer to the CeFi crypto users and bring their product where the users are, rather than trying to bring users to DeFi. And there is also one thing which can bring the centralized exchanges to accelerate our industry overall is better user experience. One reason we have so many people on centralized exchanges is the user experience in centralized exchanges is way easier and better. DeFi has been struggling for a very long time. So I think if we bring DeFi product to centralized infrastructure, such as the centralized exchanges, there is a very good play for many people to win and grow together.
Actually, you raised a couple of very interesting points. First of all, when we're talking about the true decentralization and the user experience. So how, in fact, can we provide this, let's say, almost impeccable user experience, but at the same time, not at the expense of giving up decentralization? Because one of the things, obviously, what is sometimes for people hard to comprehend, how can you use, again, non-custodial wallets connected to decentralized exchange? It's much easier whenever you have an account in a centralized exchange. It seems like that. So you kind of feel, people from Web2, they feel more in this case, for them it's easier to trade on centralized exchanges. Absolutely. But how can you, in this case, where is the trade-off? How to strike a balance between bringing people to the real DeFi protocols, to the real decentralized exchanges, but providing them this experience that they are still more accustomed to when we're talking about centralized exchanges?
I try to look at this with very first principle approach. If the users are not interested into the decentralization and non-custodial value proposition of product, so be it. Yeah, if you don't want to eat fish today, I should not force you to eat fish.
That's true, but at the same time, we're talking about these are the principles that crypto, let's say, native people are already are willing and open to that. But whenever we're talking about people from Web2 space, like this transition from Web 2 to Web 2.5, as they call it, to Web 3, it's a bit like complicated for them. So how can we bring this, billion users, as they say it, to crypto, if, for example, like they still don't feel safe living, they're accustomed to having an account or email, and if you lose the password, you can get it. But how can we do this? Because otherwise, we still have the same people who are already open to crypto, but how can we open up to people who are not exactly, let's say, so knowledgeable in Web3?
I think we need to let the entrepreneurs build, and some DeFi protocol should be open to let people build different front ends on those protocols. Today, when you consume Bitcoin, you can consume Bitcoin in multiple ways.
Yes.
If you're hardcore Bitcoin maxi, you can get your hardware wallet and only deal with your hardware wallet. If you have an interest for Bitcoin, you can get Bitcoin and transact with Bitcoin and build an exposure to it via a centralized exchange. If you have no time and no appetite for a new account in any other services, you can go and buy an ETF. So I think the market, rather than trying to bring people and forcing them into some technologies they have no time for and maybe no appetite for it, is just our role as operators in crypto to think, okay, how do the people want to consume it, and being very pragmatic about it. This is why I double click on distribution. If people are not comfortable to manage their private keys, I think it's very important for any project in DeFi to say, okay, maybe someone will consume my projects and consume the protocol I built in different ways. Maybe they will do a user interface which will be simplified. Maybe they will bring more security or a better experience for maybe Asian users or Middle East users, which have their own appetite for different features. But letting people and letting the market express itself. I don't think we should fight the market, but being way more, I would say, pragmatic and just let the people express. If you prefer to cook your own food, and some people prefer to call Karim or Uber Eats, so is their choice, and we should respect it. But as an operator, or maybe as an entrepreneur, I think thinking that DeFi is actually becoming a global protocol for decentralized finance, but this decentralized finance will be distributed in different ways depending on the type of users and the regions of the world. I think that's the best approach.
In the past decade, we have witnessed the rise of cryptocurrency as a powerful new force in the financial marketplace.
Anyone with a cell phone can hold stable coins and have access to a banking system. I think investors in general should do research into the asset that they're buying.
Many clients, when they get involved in the cryptocurrency space, have concerns about the safety of their wallets and how safe is it to trade across these platforms. And the reality is, as long as you take care and protect your keys, you should be fine. There are general concerns around volatility in the past. We saw Bitcoin do some huge price swings, but nowadays, things are normalizing a little bit.
In the face of a unique new financial marketplace, CoinRoutes was built from the ground up to handle the unique market structure of crypto assets. As a leading provider of algorithmic trading strategies and execution management systems, their distributed architecture allows clients to keep full control over their wallets and keys.
Let's focus again on dYdX tech updates, because one of the things that when you mentioned that first you were on StarX on Ethereum, and then you moved to standalone blockchain on ConsenSys SDK. So what in this case, whenever we're talking about decentralization challenges, like what kind of challenges do you see right now? And what made you move, let's say, from layer 2 to standalone ConsenSys SDK solution? What was the intention behind that?
So since 2018, dYdX has been kind of leveraging all the new innovations and technology available in the crypto space to keep growing and keep servicing users the best possible. Ethereum layer 1 as a stage number 1. Step 2 was layer 2 with the Starkware. dYdX used to be one of the very early users of layer 2s and one of the biggest users of Starkware at the time. But the engineers came to a point where there was a level of frustration when actually you build on the top of someone else's blockchain you have always a very high dependency on how fast they will deliver on that roadmap and how fast their blockchain will be bringing new features to enable your application. So if you sit on someone else blockchain, you always depends, and if they move a little bit slower than you will slow down because of your infrastructure under your app, right? So dYdX at some point reached a size which was essentially a good signal to say, okay, we might want to move away from general purpose blockchains and move to an app chain and building this app chain. So essentially what is an app chain is a blockchain, but which has been designed and optimized for one use case, the application. The application in this example is dYdX. So the dYdX chain was launched about 12 months ago. It has 100 validators, 60 of them are active. They're spread all over the world and coming from multiple backgrounds. And the chain is optimized for dYdX. So it has enabled dYdX to launch much more features, much more faster, to optimize the speed of execution and the experience for users in general. But it also allowed to essentially enable new token economics, having a token which is not a governance token anymore, but became a utility token. So when people decide to stake on dYdX, they get rewarded with USDCs. So it just opened the world of possibles, which is way, way larger when you can essentially own and develop your own application.
Talking about governance, as you mentioned, since it's one of the as well very important things, and DAOs in decentralized autonomous organization in decentralized world. What you can say with your concept of sub-DAOs, can you first of all explain to our audience what is it and how is it different from traditional DAOs as we know it? And second of all, what benefit does it provide to dYdX users?
Absolutely. So dYdX today as an ecosystem has co-built via governance. So all the users of dYdX have built 3 different DAOs. So there is a first DAO, which is called the Grants DAO.
Yeah.
So the DAO has been formed by users of dYdX, and then they've been raising funds from the dYdX protocol. And then they essentially run campaigns of giving grants to projects and partners building on or around dYdX. So that's the first sub-DAO. Second sub-DAO is a dYdX operation DAO. This DAO is a highly technical DAO with a team of engineers which are running the indexer, running a front end, running some services for validators. So they take care of a lot of the technical, I would say, and engineering works around the dYdX chain. And the last DAO, which was co-designed by the users and voted in favor a few months back, is a treasury DAO. So essentially the protocol of dYdX and the token holders of dYdX are in control of millions of dollars, which are sitting on the dYdX blockchain. And they created a sub-DAO to manage this treasury in order to put those tokens to work and generating some additional revenues to extend the runway and kind of finance multiple initiatives within the dYdX ecosystem.
And you mentioned there's a third one as well.
So grants, operation, and treasury.
Got it. Okay, so by the way, talking about like sub-DAOs, because in this case, for me, it's very interesting how the governance is done in this case, because one of the things that, again, whenever we're talking about DAOs in general, how the decision-making process is done in this case, whenever we're talking about like operational one or treasury or grant one.
So within the DAOs, when the DAOs are created, people can vote for it.
Yeah.
So there is always a challenge. There is more than 53,000 token holders of dYdX. The beauty of the dYdX chain is built with the Cosmos SDK. So it's an independent chain, totally independent, but the software it's built from is a Cosmos SDK. And essentially when you decide to stake your dYdX, you essentially stake them to validators, and the validators will be able to vote on your behalf if you do decide not to vote or if you're busy not voting. So we have a very good dynamic of votings, and token holders are very involved. Some of them will kind of vote themselves, and some others will say, okay, I delegate it to this validator or another validator, and then I will go with their decisions.
Does in this case, how much staking do you own? Does it, let's say, influence how many votes you have?
Yeah, one token, one vote, absolutely.
Okay, so in this case, how can you make sure that still the process of voting is still decentralized, not depending on the high stakers, those who have the higher stake in the DAO, sub-DAO?
The first principle is one token, one vote, right?
Okay.
So you have to follow that. The best to make sure that there is like fair access
distribution as well.
is to incentivize decentralization and also making sure that there is enough people participating. So with this system of validators, when people stake, their validators can vote on their behalf. The last time I checked, I think about 80% of the token holders are voting either themselves or via their validators. But yes, some token holders are larger than others, and they will have more influence than others. But the reality, when you look at the 180 plus governance votes happened last year in 2024, you find a very strong consensus. Usually, all the token holders are aligned and they want to achieve the same goal.
Yeah.
So you don't come to a situation where you're gonna get like a 51%, 49%, and then like a big token holder can move a vote in one direction. It's not really happening. Usually, the people are aligned on what they want to do and achieve with the project, and either they reject something in mass or they approve something in mass. But the alignment is, I think, the best way to essentially make sure that a large group of people, such as the 50,000 token holder of dYdX, move in the same direction is by communicating properly and having also clarity on what is the path forward and enabling them to understand and feel the direction of the project. And in that case, they can vote whatever they want to vote, but usually they align in a very organic manner.
One of the important, let's say, topics for the last year, 2024, 2025, is interoperability. So more chains in this case, whenever we're talking about like different wallets, they want to provide you with experience to use to store, let's say, your stable coins on different chains. And from this perspective, whenever we're talking about dYdX chain, what do you have any plan to integrate your ecosystem with Solana's, I don't know, Ethereum layer 2, since you know them very well, but also some other platforms that are there, and they are building, as they call it, blockchain abstract solutions as well. Is there anything that you can say that dYdX is working on?
That's a good question. In the world of crypto derivatives, such as dYdX, we don't need to be interconnected to other chains as much as, for example, people doing crypto lending, where you need to have the asset. Because what we do in a crypto derivative type of exchange, we have price feeds coming from different chains, should it be Aptos, Solana, Ethereum, and we know what is the price of the asset in some other part of the blockchain ecosystem on some other chains. And then the protocol will create essentially a futures contract and create this derivative contract for people to trade. So we don't have the need so much to be everywhere. We need the information from everywhere, but we don't have the need to be everywhere. The second part, which is critical, is liquidity. If you start to spread yourself in many different blockchains, essentially you will lose in liquidity. And liquidity is very core to the success of any crypto trading type of project. So if you split your liquidity, let's say by 5 or 10 different blockchains, so via some price feeds,
every meme coins as well.
Every meme coins available on Solana is tradable in a matter of hours on dYdX. Any tokens available on Uniswap base chain is available on dYdX as well. So we already solved this kind of interoperability challenge by the nature of the activity of dYdX being crypto derivative, so synthetic kind of representation of tokens elsewhere, but also having like a great infrastructure of price feed informations, so we can create contract and you can trade Bitcoin on dYdX. And dYdX chain is not compatible with Bitcoin, but you can trade Bitcoin, you can trade ETH, you can trade 180 plus different markets. So with the right technology, you solve this issue very much. And you solve this issue because you are in full control of your full stack. One reason we can achieve that is we build the dYdX chain. So the engineers were able to essentially fine-tune everything and we're not relying anymore on a general purpose layer 1 or layer 2, which is trying to accommodate many different use cases and projects. dYdX is kind of a Formula One for crypto trading.
One of the biggest challenges by protocols is are hacks. I was just analyzing recently the data, like how many hacks were done last year. And the interesting thing, for example, that more of centralized exchanges last year have fallen victims to hackers. From your perspective right now, still DeFi protocols are vulnerable to that. Mm-hmm. What exactly other DeFi teams can do to protect their users and make sure that we don't fall victims to another hacks?
I think simplicity is the best first approach. Having a very simply designed infrastructure and blockchain. On dYdX, for example, there are only two types of assets. You have USDC and you have the dYdX token. So it simplifies a lot all kind of hacks. The dYdX protocol has been audited, obviously, but the architecture remains fairly simple, which really helps to prevent any kind of attack. We did not suffer any attacks or any hacks so far. Yeah. Some people have been able to manipulate price feeds because derivative systems are very complex. So if you can change a price somewhere else, the price might eventually change as well on the dYdX platform and some others. So some people sometimes manipulate markets to kind of take advantage of price feed games. But the platform itself has been very solid so far. Maybe I'll conclude that also with the fact that when you are running your own application chain, essentially the community, if there was a hack, if there was a security event, the community can decide to say, okay, there was something which we all agree happened wrongly for bad reasons, obviously, and the community can decide collectively to kind of go back into the history of the blockchain and cancel this event, for example, or cancel this transaction, for example. That's something which is possible when you are a smaller ecosystem and all your token holders are aligned for the same thing. It's not possible anymore on Bitcoin. It's not possible anymore on Ethereum because they have reached such a large size and the number of stakeholders are so massive.
Encrypted is your exclusive ticket to the epicenter of technological innovations in the MENA region. Right now, let's focus on regulations because one of the things that is, let's say, is like following DeFi, we can say regulatory scrutiny on DeFi. How dYdX is preparing for potential compliance requirements like KYC and AML, because as you know, decentralized exchanges are usually don't require KYC. I really liked as well one of the sessions that you've been to at Abu Dhabi Finance Week, whether DeFi should be regulated or not. So I definitely would like you to express your thoughts on that and how are you going to cope up with that, taking into account that your users feel you still stick to decentralization, but nonetheless, you also, in this case, you also are compliant with the regulations?
That's a very complex question, which applies in different ways depending on which country and jurisdictions you are. I will ask you a question back to you. Are we regulating the same way as stablecoin? And do you need a KYC when you use USDC? You don't.
Depends what kind of, and again, in this case, I'm using what kind of wallet. If I have, let's say, non-custodial wallet, of course, I don't have. Anyone can send it to me, and obviously, I don't have to go through KYC. However, at the same time, if I have custodial wallet, in this case, I have already there an account and everything related to my exchange account and etc.
I guess the point I want to do here is there are so many different use cases. AML is, I think, extremely important, and the dYdX protocol has enabled from day one AMLs. So AML means monitoring and qualifying the flow of assets on the platform, making sure the money is not questionable. If it's questionable by automatic systems, essentially the money is blocked or rejected. The same way it applies, for example, to stablecoins. dYdX is a DeFi protocol, which is essentially operated by a community of validators, and there is no KYC. But there is a lot of AML. which in my personal opinion is very important. I prefer to know if your money is questionable, gray or black money, rather than knowing that you live at this address, for example. That doesn't solve my problem. So a lot of AML is being done on dYdX. The big questions behind that is, should you essentially regulate the operator or regulate the technology? DeFi is a technology. The protocol of dYdX, the chain of dYdX is a technology. It's a chain. The chain itself cannot allow you to trade. On the top of it, there are many different layers of different type of activities. Some people are running front ends. Some people are running validators. Some people are running and producing the code. So it's a lot of technology which is bundled together to bring a decentralized experience. The real question is, it's a question which has been ongoing for probably 30 years now, is do you want to regulate the internet? Do you want to regulate the technology? Or should you regulate the people who give access to the technology? And I think the direction of travel for many regulators is essentially to keep understanding and keep asking the good questions. And many regulators are extremely engaged, and they know also that the direction of the technology, the direction of the market globally, how it's going. And I think we're going to end up where operators will be asked to essentially apply locally the regulations they're operating from. So maybe a user from a DeFi user from France will not get the same kind of restrictions and framework as a user, for example, in the US or maybe in the Middle East, because everyone has his own appetite, has his own kind of rules and regulation. But the technology itself, in my opinion, is very hard to regulate. Yeah. The same way we don't question anymore regulations of Bitcoin. Right? Bitcoin is a technology, you cannot regulate it. But eventually people have understood that it became a commodity, technology / commodity, and then people starting to access it or providing access should be following local rules. And I think we're going to end up in exactly the same framework for DeFi. That's a good thing. I close with one thing, which I think is very important. This is our responsibility as DeFi practitioners, should you be a technologist in DeFi or an operator, to stay engaged with the regulators and keep explaining what you're doing. Eventually, if you look at what the regulators want to achieve, a healthy market, protections of the asset of the users, protections of the users, and what DeFi brings to the table, at its essence, like the code of DeFi delivers transparency by default. DeFi brings security by default, if it's properly built, right? And you realize that the DeFi value proposition and what the regulator wants to achieve, there is a very strong overlap. You can ask yourself what's happening on the order book of Binance. No one knows. Regulators don't know. Binance maybe knows. Same for Coinbase, by the way. It's a centralized venue with a centralized. If you want to look at the order book of Uniswap or the order book of dYdX, if you want to audit dYdX and see where are the funds, you can do this permissionlessly every second. Yeah. You can look at the market practice. Is there any toxic behavior on the order book? Is there any front running or people manipulating the market? All of this is transparent for all. So when you spend time to understand exactly what people want to achieve and what the technology brings as a DeFi technology, is basically shows that there is a lot of points which meets, and it needs some time to be kind of digested. But eventually, I believe DeFi is probably a way stronger proposition for the regulators than some of the centralized venue. You need to properly do DeFi. I totally get it. Not everyone is doing this properly. But I think that's why we don't see so much DeFi project having challenges with regulators, because everything is transparent. Nothing is being hidden. So yes, the KYC is maybe not there because that's the way the design is. The same way when I access the internet, I don't always KYC myself. I might be accessing from different places. But there is a very good alignment, and I'm very optimistic in the fact that should it be for CBDCs, for stablecoin, or for the future, the infrastructure for capital markets, that essentially public blockchain networks are the only solution.
By the way, I remember, as you mentioned earlier, that DeFi is like internet in the 90s of last century. So taken into account right now with the rise of AI technologies, with with the newest ones, OpenAI, when we're talking about DeepSeek and others, and there is already a new term that is, if you think about it, it's also called DeFi, but or as they call it, DeFi. So there is right now a new term called DeFi. Sometimes they call it, or they say again DeFi. And the developers in DeFi, they say, in fact, it should not be used without using AI anymore. So that's why it's the same term. So DeFi should not be without AI. Do you agree with that? And where do you see the DeFi growing from this time? And
I need more time to digest that. What I know is we see some DeFi agents operating on dYdX. So they come and connect by themselves and trade. Some of them will ask questions, which is amazing. So you have human users sometimes asking questions. And then suddenly you have like an AI agent asking questions on Twitter, like how to connect to the API, where is the documentation? And it just takes some time to digest. Like, well, actually, we're talking to people using the protocol, which is quite amazing. Eventually, I think AI on blockchain is a good proposition because blockchain produces a lot of data. Blockchain produces a lot of very well organized and very well labeled data, which is very different from the data you can find in the internet in overall, where you need to understand what is it exactly. On DeFi, it brings a large amount of data very well labeled, so it's very easy for AI to process it. What is interesting with DeepSeek, which is supposedly a challenger for OpenAI and some others, is that actually DeepSeek has been developed by a hedge fund in China, and
like as a side hustle, as they call it.
And their large language LLM has been developed on the top of capital markets, right? So I think you can train better AI agents and AI engines on capital market because the amount of information is extremely massive. The pace of change of the information is extremely fast also. And in the context of trading, and if you train AI agents on trading, you also train them to take decisions. If you think at ChatGPT, they don't really take decisions for you. They give you a lot of information. It depends what you ask them, but most of the cases is bringing like a very large encyclopedia and making it more digestible for you. But I think training AI in the context of DeFi is very interesting because it's just much more high velocity data and financial data. So that's why I'm excited to see how AI will come together. Maybe the last thing I'll close also with is all those AI agents and all this innovation potential of AI agents can only exist because of DeFi. AI agents cannot do a KYC, to come back to your early question. AI agents has no home address, no passport.
Unless they're going to KYC themselves.
And then it's totally fake. So that's very interesting to think about it and saying, okay, the technology is coming very quickly. Maybe some people will have their own AI agent as their own AI twin. Some agents will be on the market as algorithms. So how do you deal with that? And how do you think more like, okay, what will be the best framework for regulation, the best framework for kind of keeping a marketplace which is healthy? And yes, AI enables a lot of things, and one of them is AI agent trading.
Let's right now focus on your books, because I remember 2.5 years ago, I was an MC at Hong Kong FinTech Week, and at that time, I got a present, BlockKong. So I still, at that time, we didn't know each other, and I got your first book as BlockKong. By the way, as I said it, I will need you to sign it as well. BlockKong is about the fintech / crypto leaders in Hong Kong. And for me, it was interesting as well to find out that right now you're writing Arabic or Arabian Crypto in particular. Could you please tell me about both books and how, let's say, how they're different and what is similar between them?
So let's start with BlockKong.
Yes.
BlockKong is blockchain and Hong Kong just mixed together in one name.
Sounds really cool.
It's 21 breakfasts with 21 crypto entrepreneurs in Hong Kong. I'm the co-author of this book together with my mate, Jem DiBiaso, which is a journalist based in Hong Kong. And we wanted to essentially document the ecosystem and document the journey of different people in the industry. The industry of crypto is fascinating because of its market and the pace of innovation. But to me, it's also fascinating to see the different type of people you will meet in the industry and their respective journeys. Some people are coming as dreamers, some people are coming as high velocity entrepreneurs, some people are pure traders, some people are technologists, some people are former journalists which are reinventing their career focusing on the crypto industry. There is so many journeys. So we wanted to do that for Hong Kong, and we did that with Blockong, which has been very successful book, and helping to essentially highlight the ecosystem of Hong Kong and making the champions story a little bit more visible to others, so people can see that there are so many paths to enter into the crypto industry, and trying to show by example the path of different people. And together with James again, we started to write this book called Arabian Crypto. So Arabian Crypto will be a very similar context. It will be written here in Dubai and covering essentially the ecosystem of entrepreneurs in crypto in Dubai. So I hope to deliver to the readers a good mix of inspiration, a good mix of also local culture. So we're going to spend time in different parts of the UAE to make the people understand how the commerce has been evolving over centuries here, and how eventually now crypto is part of many people's agenda, and highlighting some of the local talents as well as the expat talents which are operating and growing the ecosystem here. We have already a list of very interesting people, and we look forward to have conversations with them. The book should be out by the end of 2025. If it's late, bear with me.
Amazing. It would definitely I definitely would like to read it, that one as well. But coming back as well to Blockong, actually, you mentioned that you had a really interesting story while you were signing this book. Could you please share it with us? What was the story about?
That's when I started Blockong, the book. When we launched the book, we organized together with James some signing ceremony and launch parties in different parts of the city, and we wanted to have like some kind of a gift to the people buying the book and joining the launch parties. So we decided to essentially buy an example of what money can become sometimes, and we offered, and I offer this to you again, this $1 billion note from Zimbabwe.
Okay.
And
it was a national currency.
That was a national currency of Zimbabwe.
And it has 1 billion of
Zimbabwe dollars, yeah. So the idea is to illustrate to people that money is a society concept, and sometimes it can go in multiple directions. So you will see what is inflation, and if you're complaining about the price of your coffee in the morning, some people have to complain much more than you, because suddenly the coffee became $1 billion because the economy went totally out of hand over there. So it's some kind of obvious example of how we should be thinking about the economy, about money in general, and how crypto can partially bring some answers or some solutions to that. So that's why we offered this $1 billion currency note. Again, this money does not exist anymore. It's almost an NFT, but it's a good illustration of how economies sometimes can go the wrong direction.
Do you think that the economy should go crypto way in the future, or should it be again mixed, taking into account, as you said, like there's inflation, what inflation can cause, and what exactly it can practically make some of the, let's say, fiat currencies kind of disappear as with this one?
Money is part of the human history. If you go here in Dubai, in Dera, there is this small museum with all the different currencies which have been passing by Dubai, because Dubai has been historically a very large hub for commerce. People started with shell, and then silver, and then gold. So the way we've been dealing with money has been evolving massively. And I think what we see now with crypto is just the latest stage. Eventually, I'm convinced that we're going to deal with a mix of electronic currencies, and many of them will migrate to public blockchain networks. Some examples: stablecoins. Stablecoins are making great progress in multiple parts of the world, including the UAE. Another example is initiatives from the government themselves, initiatives from the central banks themselves with CBDCs. Great progress in many parts of the world. Again, the UAE is at the forefront of it with the CB-UAE project, with the mBridge project, which I was involved with when I was working at ConsenSys together with central banks of Hong Kong and Thailand and some others. And then there is this crypto phenomena. Will everything in crypto stay? We have to be patient. Bitcoin seems to be staying for quite a long time. Same for Ethereum. What will happen with the meme coin, with the DeFi AI? We shall see. But humans have just been evolving with different kind of money around them, and I think this trend will continue.
Where do you see dYdX place in this future and DeFi derivatives in general?
I think dYdX is and will keep growing as a protocol, an infrastructure for derivative trading for users in order for people to trade anything. Trade FX on the global ledger, trade crypto assets on a global ledger, trade maybe meme coins or trade any kind of new digital assets. So the vision of dYdX is becoming a layer for trading activities in a derivative way and being able to essentially offer to the vision that everything will be tradable and dYdX will be part of this infrastructure.
Yeah, thank you so much, Charles. Right now, we move to the last part of our interview. Stay tuned with Encrypted. Rapid fire questions. So, Charles, if you had to explain blockchain to a child, how would you do this in one sentence?
Blockchain is like a private diary where you can write everything happening in your day and you can always come back and check.
Which blockchain founder would you take on a road trip?
Vitalik.
Okay. If you found out who Satoshi Nakamoto is, what would be your first question to him, her, or them?
Did you lose the key?
Okay. Name 5 qualities that you believe a real entrepreneur should have.
Resilience and being relentlessly resourceful.
2. We have 5.
Creative.
Okay.
And good at hiring.
Uh-huh.
And doing a lot of sales.
Okay. The biggest misconception people have about Web3?
That it's for scammers and quick money. There is a lot of scammers. There is some money being made, but the winners are the long-term players.
What would you never do while building a company?
I will try to be always honest with people. Yeah.
Okay. What's harder, explaining DeFi to a 5-year-old or teaching your parents how to use MetaMask wallet?
Teaching my parents.
Okay. Would you rather lose your private keys or your house keys?
House keys.
Okay. Finish the sentence. My business philosophy is?
My business philosophy is ambition, humility, and integrity.
How often do you practice your keynote speech before going on a stage?
Many times I don't practice.
Okay. If there were a movie about your life, how would you call it?
I don't know.
What's more decentralized, your schedule or your wallet?
My schedule.
Okay. And Dubai for you is associated with?
Ambition, integrity, energy.
Amazing. Today we had Charles Dosey, CEO of dYdX Foundation. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
And see you next time. From the gleaming skyscrapers of Dubai to the innovation hubs of the Middle East and beyond, Encrypted brings you thought-provoking discussions, exclusive insights, and stories of innovation that will leave you inspired. This episode of Encrypted is sponsored by CoinRoutes. CoinRoutes is a leading institutional crypto trading platform that has rapidly established itself as a market leader in systematic trading solutions, offering a powerful algorithmic order execution management system that empowers the world's largest crypto trading firms.